What if I told you that a single consulting firm might be the true power behind Saudi Arabia's throne? While the royal family and crown prince are in the spotlight, there's a hidden influence guiding the kingdom's most important decisions. Could this be the real force shaping the future of Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia is a country sitting on a gold mine. With vast oil reserves, Saudi Arabia has become incredibly wealthy. But this wealth is both a blessing and a challenge. But why is it a challenge? Because having so much wealth tied up in oil can be risky. Imagine if oil prices plummet, or the world shifts to alternative energy sources like solar or wind. That could really shake up Saudi Arabia's economy. Now let's explore the broader economic landscape of Saudi Arabia to understand why this is. Saudi Arabia has the second largest oil reserves in the world, with about 260 billion barrels. In 2023, the state-owned oil company Saudi Aramco made a massive profit of $121 billion. Oil is the backbone of Saudi Arabia's economy, accounting for about 87% of the government's budget, 90% of its export earnings, and 42% of its GDP. With such a heavy reliance on oil, managing this resource wisely is important for Saudi Arabia's future and economy. But Saudi Arabia isn't just sitting back. They know they can't rely solely on oil forever. That's why they're looking at diversifying their economy. This means investing in different industries to make sure they are not just putting all their eggs in one basket. That's where the idea of a consulting firm comes in. And Saudi Arabia has been making some efforts to change how its economy works. About 40% of Saudi Arabia's economy comes from businesses that aren't run by the government. These businesses hire millions of workers from other countries who are really important for the oil and services industries. To help move away from oil, Saudi Arabia is encouraging investment from private and foreign businesses in different sectors like power and telecommunications. They've even joined the World Trade Organization to help with this process. Even though Saudi Arabia is modernizing, the old guard is still pulling the strings. Here's what's really going on behind the scenes. Now, despite these modernizing efforts, the structure of Saudi Arabia's government remains deeply traditional. Saudi Arabia is still run by a king, and the royal family has a big influence on the government. So the way the country is run is a mix of old rules and modern politics. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is trying to introduce changes with his Vision 2030 plan. He wants to develop new parts of the economy, like technology, entertainment, and tourism, so that the country doesn't just rely on oil. He's also working to improve Saudi Arabia's global image by investing in sports and entertainment, hoping to shift attention away from concerns about human rights. Now, part of the Crown Prince's strategy includes hosting big sports events and cultural festivals. They bring in famous celebrities and athletes from around the world. These events are fun, but they also help show Saudi Arabia as a modern and lively place. But some people worry that these flashy events might be hiding real problems in the country. Amnesty International has pointed out that even though we see some changes, Saudi Arabia still has very strict rules about what people can say. Since Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman came into power, the government has been really tough on anyone who speaks out against them. People who criticize the government on social media can end up in jail for a long time. This shows that there's a big gap between how Saudi Arabia wants to look to the outside world and what's actually happening inside. The royal family's huge wealth, about $1.4 trillion, helps pay for these big plans and changes. This money makes it easier for the Crown Prince to try new things and make changes in the country. With such big projects and changes happening, it makes sense that Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman would want some expert advice. That's why he might work with a consulting firm like McKinsey Company. They know a lot about managing such changes and planning for the future. Their help could be the key to shaping how Saudi Arabia changes its economy and society. This brings us to a big question. Could a consulting firm really be the real power behind the throne? But first, who is McKinsey Company? The firm is a major player in the consulting world. Founded back in 1926 by James O. McKinsey, it is one of the oldest and largest management consulting firms globally. Based in Chicago, McKinsey helps a wide range of clients, including big corporations, governments, and various organizations, by offering strategic and management consulting services. Today, McKinsey has a massive workforce of about 45,000 employees and operates in 60 countries with 104 offices worldwide. As of 2023, the firm reported impressive revenues exceeding $15 billion. They are known for their rigorous recruitment process, often targeting top-tier business school graduates and experts with advanced degrees and specialized skills. The firm has significantly influenced corporate management practices over the decade. For example, they developed overhead value analysis techniques that contributed to the downsizing trends in the mid-20th century. McKinsey's consulting services cover a broad spectrum, including management, organization, operations, and IT. They are consistently ranked among the most prestigious consulting firms and serve 2/3 of the Fortune 1000 companies. But not everything is as it seems. What dark secrets might this consulting firm be hiding? McKinsey's history includes some controversies, such as its involvement with the Enron scandal and its consulting practices in countries with complex political landscapes. They've also faced criticism for their recommendations on opioid marketing strategies in North America. Their consulting work has also touched industries and areas that raise eyebrows, like opioid manufacturers, tobacco companies, and fossil fuel enterprises. McKinsey has even worked with U.S. immigration and customs enforcement and governments known for strict control, including Saudi Arabia. McKinsey has faced a lot of heat for its work with opioid manufacturers. So what did they actually do? Well, they advised these companies on how to sell more opioids. One of their strategies was to target doctors known for prescribing lots of these drugs. They even came up with ways to push back against rules aimed at cutting down on opioid prescriptions. Now, as the opioid crisis got worse, leading to addiction and many deaths, people started to question McKinsey's role. Critics argued that McKinsey seemed more focused on making money for its clients than on the health of the public. What's more shocking is that the internal documents later revealed that McKinsey was well aware of the ethical and legal risks of their advice but continued anyway. This revelation really sparked outrage and raised big questions about McKinsey's ethics and its responsibility in handling issues that directly impact public health. Similarly, their advice to tobacco companies and fossil fuel corporations has been controversial. Many reports suggest that McKinsey provided strategic advice that helped these industries manage and sometimes downplay the criticism they faced over public health and environmental issues. For the tobacco industry, McKinsey's strategies involve finding ways to improve marketing campaigns and developing messaging that could counteract the growing public health concerns about smoking. In the case of fossil fuel companies, McKinsey advised on how to maintain business growth despite rising environmental concerns. This included strategies for dealing with regulatory pressures and public scrutiny about the role of fossil fuels in climate change. McKinsey's guidance often focused on maximizing profitability while managing the industry's image and increasing calls for environmental responsibility. Also, McKinsey's work with ICE, an agency often criticized for its treatment of immigrants and its services to authoritarian regimes like Saudi Arabia, raises serious ethical questions. These actions have sparked debates about the moral implications of McKinsey's engagements. It's alleged that McKinsey tries hard to keep these controversial activities under wraps, carefully managing its public image and keeping a lid on the details of its involvement in these sensitive areas. But just how deep does this consulting firm's influence run in Saudi Arabia? Let's uncover the extent of their power. McKinsey & Company's role in Saudi Arabia has grown a lot over the years, especially after they shifted their focus to government contracts following the financial struggles during the dot-com bubble. This led to a deep relationship with the Saudi government. McKinsey & Company's biggest clients in the U.S. is the U.S. Department of Defense, with contracts worth $940 million since 2008. Their success with the U.S. government has led them to start working with foreign governments, including those that are authoritarian, such as Saudi Arabia. McKinsey's work in Saudi is so influential that people have started calling the Saudi planning ministry the Ministry of McKinsey. This shows just how much McKinsey influences the country's strategies. Let's dive into some of their major projects and see what's been going on. In 2016 alone, McKinsey worked on 137 projects with Saudi Arabia. Since 2018, McKinsey has been running the Imam Fellowship Program. This initiative aims to give Saudi university students a boost by offering mentorship and leadership training. It's designed to build up future leaders, but there's also a lot of discussion about who really benefits from this program. Does it reach a wide range of students, or is it mostly helping a privileged few? In 2022, McKinsey was also behind a push to upgrade Saudi Arabia's digital health services. They focused on enhancing virtual doctor visits and automating healthcare processes to make them more efficient. These improvements improvements could greatly help accessibility and efficiency in healthcare, but they also bring up concerns about privacy and the overall quality of care in a digital-first setup. Fast forward to 2023, and they took a big role on in sports with the financial strategy for the Live Golf Invitational Series. This event started in 2022 and quickly shook up the golf world by luring top players with huge paychecks and challenging long-established tournaments. McKinsey's involvement was crucial in shaping its financials, aiming to position Live Golf as a major player on the sports scene. But this move also raised a lot of questions about the motives and the impacts of such a disruptive series. Alongside these projects, McKinsey has been deeply involved in massive economic developments like the building of the King Abdullah Economic City and various projects in Jeddah. These are huge undertakings meant to spur the economy by creating new urban spaces and improving infrastructure. But these projects also raise significant concerns, from environmental impacts to the displacement of local communities and issues around how transparently these projects are managed. But many of McKinsey's projects are kept secret, and some might even be a bit shady. Let's dig into one example. McKinsey made a report that looked at what people on Twitter thought about Saudi Arabia's government policy. They pointed out 3 people who were really important. They were Khalid Al-Alkami, a writer from Saudi Arabia, Omar Abdulaziz, who lives in Canada, and someone who tweeted anonymously. After the report, Al-Alkami got arrested, Abdulaziz's brothers ended up in jail, and the anonymous Twitter account was shut down. This shows how McKinsey's work can have direct, harsh effects on people who speak out. It makes us question the role of consulting firms in supporting actions that limit free speech and target activists. Despite the secrecy around McKinsey's work, it's known that Saudi Arabia has paid them hundreds of millions of dollars. Their influence extends into military strategy and controlling what people think about the government. So how much power does McKinsey really have? Not just in Saudi Arabia, but around the world. Who else might be quietly shaping policies and opinions that impact us all? What do you think about this? Have you heard of other times when consultants had too much power? Share your thoughts in the comments below.